So I simply couldn't resist the temptation to respond to this message as well. So KJH, if that is your real name, says, BBB, I typically love your videos, but come on, making content like this, telling people that you could get sued for defamation over a YouTube comment, whilst it's certainly true and you're certainly correct that with what you're saying, thank you for acknowledging that, the chances of this ever happening are so infinitesimally small that they almost aren't worth even talking about. Well, on the contrary, actually, a reasonable portion of my practice is talking to people in conference and advising them legally about things that they've said online that they can get sued for. And they readily receive letters from companies threatening them with lawsuits because what they've said is defamatory online, sometimes in private Facebook groups, for example. Now, even a private Facebook group you might think is private and therefore no one else should see it, therefore it can't possibly be defamatory, but that's not really true. European courts have previously decided that even private Facebook groups are still public in the broad sense of the term, because people can join, and in many cases people do join that are just not part of the private organization or whatever, so they can ultimately be made out to be private. Anyway, we digress. What we're talking about here is comments on YouTube videos and reviews on Trustpilot and things like that. Now, just to briefly reference one case, which is BW Legal Services Limited against Trustpilot. They brought a claim in defamation over around 20, I think it was, different reviews, all of which the court took the view that on the face of it, they are defamatory. This at the preliminary hearing to determine the meaning of the words behind the statements that are written. And that's usually the first step in a defamation case. The court will hear arguments as to what the real meaning of these comments is, and therefore determine whether that could be defamatory, and then go on to a substantial hearing for the rest of the case. That is, at least if the other parties wish to continue contesting it. Because once you've had that first initial hearing and the court says, yes, we think it's defamatory, then of course the substantive claim has to be proved. There has to be a proof of substantial loss and all the rest of it. But either way, once these comments make their way into a public forum, this is why you see people getting sued over their tweets and over various other comments. So coming to the latter part of your question, how would anyone know, how would any company know how to bring something against one of these posters if they needed to? Well, let's say that one comment hypothetically went viral, got tens of thousands of likes and tens of thousands of people saw it, and it was hugely defamatory, and let's say a company was impacted by that. The company could make a third-party disclosure request to Google, which obviously owns YouTube, in that example, for the information behind the person who wrote that comment. And if Google simply refused to provide that information, the defamed company could go to court for an order for third-party disclosure. So the court would then order Google to release details of the person who wrote that comment. And then they have the details with which to write to that person to initially threaten to sue them if they don't remove it, make amends, or whatever it is they might want to do, or ultimately go full steam ahead and sue them. So as I said, this is not so infinitesimally small and remote that it doesn't worth bearing thought about. You'll remember my video just a few days ago where somebody reposted the words, the lyrics, not her own words, reposted the lyrics to a song on Instagram, and she was prosecuted for hate speech, even though it wasn't her words. She didn't write them, she just posted them on her Instagram profile, and they were the lyrics to a song, which, by the way, is still readily available on YouTube and everywhere else. So just the mere fact that she posted these on her own Instagram account, she was reported anonymously to the police by someone else, and the police turned up, arrested her, questioned her, charged her. She was prosecuted and convicted in the magistrate's court, albeit she appealed it, and then defence counsel made fairly serious arguments that this was quite ridiculous, and the conviction was quashed by the Crown Court judge, but not before she went through the whole process of being prosecuted and convicted just for reposting lyrics to a song which is available on the internet on her Instagram post. She posted it and she got prosecuted and convicted, and she had to fight it to the Crown Court. Now, when you go to the Crown Court on appeal, you're already on the back foot because you are a convicted person, and therefore when you go to the Crown Court, it's heard as a rehearing only by the judge and 2 magistrates, not by a jury. But you're still on the back foot because you were already convicted. But then in this particular case, the conviction was quashed. But if you're not so lucky, you end up with a criminal conviction just for something you posted on the internet. So I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the discussion. I'm not going to shout at you for putting that discussion in there, not least of which because it allows me another opportunity to help you to understand law. So really, please, I do urge you to think carefully about what you post. You probably realize that everything I say in these videos is very carefully qualified, and I'm very good at doing that because I'm a barrister. So if you're posting something online, it has to really be an opinion, or it has to be true, which is sometimes more difficult to prove than you might think it is. But if it's an opinion, it's got to be based on some kind of facts. For example, if I mention some public figure and say, I think he or she is, insert derogatory statement here, a fraud, a murderer, whatever it is. If I say, I think they are, or it's my opinion that they are, that's defamatory, and unless it's based on some kind of factual basis, the defense of, well, it's just my opinion is not going to get me very far. If it were true, then of course that's different. But again, you still have to have a factual basis upon which to base that statement. Otherwise, it's just purely defamatory, and you could be sued for it, particularly if they are a famous person or a big company and so on and so forth. So I hope the point's clear. I hope that many of you do think very carefully about what you say. I've personally represented people before and got tens of thousands of pounds in settlement for defamatory statements that have been made about them which have been false, and it's been plainly false. They've realized they've made a mistake, and we've had settlements of many tens of thousands of pounds out of them. So this is very real. This is a real part of my practice. It's not just fictitious. It's not so infinitesimally small that it will never happen. It does happen, and it happens more often than you think. So with that, please do smash the like button and subscribe, and do me the favor, in return for me giving you free legal guidance and helping you to understand law, and subscribe to my channel, because I still notice in my statistics that 60% of you that watch my channel on a regular basis are not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button now and the like button, and I'll see you next time.